Moment there are some disturbances. I request everyone to mute themselves. There are some noises. Professor Sam Monlal.
ஞானம் சார் வந்திருக்காரு. வணக்கம் சார்.
Yeah, Professor Gyan Sundaram, I think. Yeah, good morning, but you can. All right, good morning, everybody. I welcome you to the 22nd lecture of the Foundation Day lecture series. We had a series of lectures by people from different corners. Now we have someone, our own, someone from CIL. So a warm welcome to Dr. Ramamurthy, who has served the Central Institute of Indian Languages for several years, since 2007. He joined the institute as research officer and he retired just a few years back, just 2 years back. On behalf of the institute, I welcome everyone present here. Professors, we have Professor Shalendra Mohan, Professor Rajesh Deva, Professor Gyan Sundaram, Professor Naraj Pillai, Professor Sam Monlal, and many others from other places. I believe some people are watching on YouTube. My dear colleagues from the institute and from other parts of the country, good morning to all of you, and I once again welcome you to the Foundation Day lecture series commemorating the 53rd Foundation Day of the institute. I keep repeating that, but it is always a joy to say that we are celebrating our Foundation Day. We started on July 17th and it will go on till end of April. Now I would like to introduce Professor Ramamurthy formally, because these lectures are going to be preserved for future use. So the future generations must know who is who. Professor Ramamurthy served in our institute as research officer since 2007 in various capacities. He was the head of LDCL, Linguistic Data Consortium for Indian Languages. It was one of the most important projects where he contributed a lot. He evolved standards for corpus collection, annotations in 22 scheduled languages through this project in collaboration with the ministries, different ministries, including our own, MHRD at that time, coordinated with institutions like CDAC, IITs, and other institutions, central universities and state universities across the country. He headed the ETU, Educational Technology Unit. During his time, he brought out 200 visual episodes on Tamil language, literature, history, culture, in addition to supervising other language projects. He designed several training programs and trained scholars throughout India when he was in charge of National Translation Mission Project. He was also in charge of NTS. I think he was in charge of almost everything here. But I would still like to point out some of the key contributions. In NTS, during his time, a lot of work was done in training teachers in both testing and evaluation methods. He was also the head of classical languages. He coordinated the activities of Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, and Odia. Of course, Odia is still coming up. He himself is a specialist in classical Tamil. I think that way we were honored and privileged to have him head the center for a while when he was with us. He also held other responsible positions like head grant in aid. It's one of the important schemes of Government of India, which is a bridge bringing writers and the beneficiaries together. With his headship in GIA, he was responsible for signing MOU with Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius, where the center had developed language resource centers for Indian languages. And of course, he was in charge, or he was the first person who was there when this project Scheme for Protection and Preservation of Endangered Languages started, SPELL. That was in 2013. I might have left out other positions what he held here, but I can say that whatever was being done in CIL, he had a lion's share in everything what was going on during the last 13 years of his time here. He has published several books. Before joining CIL, of course, he held another important position. He was the director of Pondicherry Institute of Linguistics and Culture for 4 years. He was also, even in the institute, another important role he had was he was principal for Southern Regional Language Center. He has published several books. He, like Purism in Tamil, Linguistic Purism and Language Planning in a Multilingual Context, Utility and Application of Language Corpora by Springer. He is a co-author in that. Also, he has contributed to the People's Linguistic Survey of India, published by Orion Blackswain. He also had compiled an English-Tamil dictionary with Pearson Group. While in PILC, he had contributed to books as the following, like Modernization in Tamil, Language, Loyalty and Displacement. He also got awards for his book on language and power and was selected as the best book of the year 2005 by Tamil Nadu Progressive Writers Association. He has several contributions. I just would like to point out that he had been instrumental for helping our institute establish itself at the international level, especially for Tamil. Number one in Mauritius, and then for the trilingual Sri Lanka program, where people were trained, teachers and administrators were given training in both Tamil and English. Also, he was one of the most important resource persons for developing corpus and other corpora-based tools in Singapore and Malaysia. And also, he was a visiting scholar in the United States, teaching Tamil, and participated in various curriculum development activities for the teaching and learning of Tamil in the universities of Michigan, Texas, and various other places where Tamil is taught. He has also coordinated various summer schools for students from Europe and other countries. He has a long list of coordinations of various workshops and programs organized. During his time, of course, he had contributed not only to Tamil, but also to many other languages across India. Today, we are very happy and honored to have him with us for this celebration of our Institute Day. He is going to enlighten us on Indian grammatical tradition by comparing Nāṭya Shāstra with Tolkāppiyam. I once again welcome you on behalf of everyone here, and I request you to now take over.
Okay. Thank you, Ma. Thank you very much. Professor Sailendra and Professor Fernandez, Professor Umarani, and my colleagues in CAL, Tarika, Nalendra Brahma, Sivaramakrishna, and former
Vanakkam,
director,
sir.
Vanakkam. Former director Rajesh Sachdeva, my brothers Mohanlal and Naraj Pillai, and all who have joined here, very good morning, and also Vanakkam, Namaste. First of all, I should take this opportunity to thank CAL for having given me lots of responsibilities, and I think I have discharged all the responsibilities given to me in a nice way. So I thank Uma and also Professor Sailendra for giving me this opportunity to present some of my views on Indian grammatical tradition. And I am also happy to see many senior scholars, maybe still some more may join to listen to this lecture. And as you know from the title, Indian grammatical tradition, Nāṭya Shāstra and Tolkāppiyam, this may not be a cup of coffee to all. Those who have some idea or some knowledge about Nāṭya Shāstra and Tolkāppiyam may appreciate the topic, but still I have to do justice for the topic. So I will be very brief, and also I may elaborate certain points to understand for the understanding. So again, some of you may wonder, what is this? Nāṭya Shāstra is a dance treatise, and Tolkāppiyam is a grammar, and how come they come under this one Indian grammatical tradition? That may also be a pertinent point. So in this lecture, I'm going to cover what is in it in Nāṭya Shāstra, and what is the Tolkāppiyam, what is in it in Tolkāppiyam, and what are the grammatical points in Tolkāppiyam, and what are the grammatical points in Nāṭya Shāstra, and how they were conceived. So for that, if we see a grammar from the perspective of our modern linguistics, then we may not get the essence of these two big texts. So our grammar, our training was to collect data and write grammar to the ordinary usage of the day. So it is within the language itself. But the conception of grammar is something big, something it has a very big canvas, I can say. So if you think that grammar in a very big way, then you can appreciate the two texts. So let me share the PowerPoint before I... Is it visible? Hello?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, what is grammar? First of all, we have to understand the conception of grammar in ancient days. So for that, study of grammar occupied an important place in education system of ancient India. A student in those days had to study not only Vedas, but also the 6 Vedangas, namely Shiksha, Vyakarna, Sandhas, Nirutta, Jyotira, and Kalpa. So the study of grammar occupies very, very important place, and grammar is the most important one of the Vedangas. So a scholar, if a scholar is to be considered as a scholar, he has to be familiarized with all these aspects. So a scholar has to know phonetics, grammar, meter, etymology, astrology, and ceremonial things. And those who specialized in grammar were considered to be the highest order among the scholars. So this is, I took this quote from P.S. Subramaniam. He has written a very good grammar on Ashtadhyayi from linguistic perspective. Then the purpose of writing grammar varies. Today we wrote grammar, or we write grammar for different purposes, for teaching or for preparing materials, or so many purposes are there. There are pedagogical grammars and descriptive grammars, prescriptive grammars. But the purpose of writing grammars vary. There has been a belief among the Hindus that the act of worship will be perfect only when the mantras are pronounced correctly. That's why the chief purpose of pursuing grammatical study by the ancient Indians was preserving the phonetic accuracy of and understanding the Vedas, and thus it is connected with the religion. So most of the ancient texts are connected with the religion. That you have to keep in mind, especially Ashtadhyayi and all Puranas, Kavyas, even Nāṭya Shāstra also connected with the religion. The conceptualization of grammar took a new turn in later periods, but it is somewhat different from the notion of present-day grammar. The earlier grammar, the conceptualization of grammar, is something different from the notion of the present-day grammar. If it is seen from the present-day conceptualization, then we lose the essence of earlier epistemological system. This is what I am going to emphasize. So it became a system. So the main purpose of the grammar in those days was, apart from religion, apart from preserving phonetic accuracy and other things, deriving or constructing meaning to the expression systems. That is very, very important. How the meaning is constructed or derived from a context through language. That is the important, very, very important purpose of the grammar. So the Panini, you all know, Bloomfield has described Panini's grammatical treatise as a monumental work of human intelligence. It's very, very true. He has given a scientific analysis of linguistic structure of Sanskrit. So this I need not elaborate, because everybody knows that. So even the Paninian grammar is very precise in describing the words and the derivations and other things. Although no grammar composed before Panini has come down to us, there is some evidence in the study of Astadhya itself to establish that there were grammarians and grammatical studies at that time. So there were grammars period to Panini, but those grammars were not available. The reason for that is, as noted by Max Muller, the excellence of Panini's work was responsible for the loss of earlier works. This is very much obvious. So in such a precise manner, Panini has decoded or encoded the language of Sanskrit. Panini, Katyayana, Patanjali are the three venerated grammarians of Indian tradition. They are popularly known as Sutrakara, Vakyakara, and Bhashyakara. So this is Panini is known as Sutrakara, who devised sutras, and Katyayana is a Vakyakara, and Patanjali has written commentary for Panini. So Panini was primarily concerned with the standardization and codification of Sanskrit, and thereby preserving the sanctity and scriptural purity of ritual language in its traditional form. That is the purpose of Panini's grammar, but still it helps us even today to use his rules for computational purpose. That much precious is there. Then Tolkāppiyam, as you all know, the earliest grammar available for Tamil is totally different from Astadhyayi, two from Sadhya, in scope, purpose, description of language. So the scope of Tolkāppiyam, the purpose for which it was written, and the description of language in Tolkāppiyam are totally different from Panini. The primary objective to Tolkāppiyam was to preserve the purity of aesthetic literary texts and their interpretation. This is very much, you should underline this. Tolkāppiyam codified the language of literary texts in an excellent manner. Quote from Annamalai. The grammatical tradition is user-friendly, simple in ordering topics with brevity, self-contained in its treatment of Tamil. This is Startsman's observation. So Tolkāppiyam is also an equally great work from Tamil language, but the scope and as well as the description varies largely. So Tolkāppiyam is the grammar which not only describes the structure of language, but also maps it with the landscape, flora and fauna, along with the human emotions in the context of speech and the composition of poetry. This is the underlying, or this is the essence of Tolkāppiyam. It not only talks about the structure of language, but gives rules for composition of poetry or decoding meaning of the poetry. So the unique character or unique feature of Tolkāppiyam is it maps the linguistic structure with the landscape, flora and fauna. So this is with the human emotions. So all encompassing type of work is Tolkāppiyam. It's a grammar which is based on linguistic categorization. This linguistic categorization you cannot see in any other grammar as far as I know. So how the world is categorized into different regions, and the categorization, the categorization, how it is reflected in the grammatical structure, and how grammar is used for expressing maybe the pragmatics and semiotics of aspects of speech. This is the grammar which not only describe about language, it talks something more about pragmatics and semiotics of speech. So this is how it is totally different from Ashtadhyayi. And so approach to grammar also varies, as I told you. Though the two languages belong to different families of languages, yet the approach to grammar is similar in several respects. This also we have to keep in mind. So though they are different, though it's written in Sanskrit and Tamil, two extreme, north and south, there are certain similarities in the approach to grammar. So that is the basic unit of description, considering both spoken and written varieties, dialectal variations, description of sounds and clusters, formation of words and sandhi rules, 8 cases, deep case relation, elements of morphosyntax. These are all the points which both the grammars, Panini as well as Tolkāppiyam, have common thing. But Professor K. Balasubramaniam and Professor Meenakshi, a Sanskrit scholar, Balasubramaniam is a linguist. He was former director of Annamalai University Linguistics Department. They have pointed out several points of variations or difference, where the phonetic details, articulation of sound, such things are explained in a detailed manner in Tolkāppiyam, where it is absent in Panini. And also Panini's grammar is based on derivation. So from root word, he gives lots of rules to explain the derivation. But Tolkāppiyam doesn't talk about derivations. And the morphophonemics given by Panini is entirely different that of Tolkāppiyam. So though at the peripheral level or at a certain level, both the texts have common similarities, at the deeper level or description of the grammatical points, they differ vastly. So this we have to keep in mind. So this is between Ashtadhyayi and Tolkāppiyam. Now we will come to Nāṭya Shāstra. Nāṭya Shāstra is also a very excellent. If you read Nāṭya Shāstra, then you will forget, what the geniusness of the Bharata. He has, taken each and every aspect of the art, like drama, music, what is it? Again, the talas. Everything is described very minutely. So Nāṭya Shāstra is an ancient Indian treatise on the performing arts, encompassing theatre, dance, and music, is traditionally attributed to sage Bharata. Nāṭya Shāstra is incredibly wide in its scope. So, we cannot imagine, maybe there are books on music, there are books on drama, but all in one place. It's a compendium of all arts. So while it is primarily deal with the stagecraft, it has come to influence music, classical Indian dance, and literature as well. So it is the combination of several things. It covers stage design, music, dance, makeup, and virtually every other aspects of stagecraft. Bharata, so the author of Nāṭya Shāstra, describes 15 types of drama ranging from 1 to 10 acts. This is very important. There are 15 types of drama, and each drama has 1 act to 10 acts. So 1 act, 1 type, 1 act, say 2 acts, like that. Like that, there are so many combinations, permutation and combination. He has combination. He has described all those things in the Nāṭya Shāstra. So written in Sanskrit, the text consists of 600 sutras, some in prose forms, incorporated in 36 chapters. Nāṭya Shāstra is a compendium of performing arts, drama, music, and dance.
Is it 6,000 or 600? Because you have written
6,000. 6,000.
You said 600. Why?
Sorry. Okay, Nāṭya Shāstra is a compendium of performing arts, drama, music, and dance, and art of fine art. So again, Tolkāppiyam, grammar of Tolkāppiyam, and what are the common points between Tolkāppiyam and Nāṭya Shāstra? Tolkāppiyam is a holistic grammar that deals with the articulation of sounds to composition of poetry in a systematic and schematic way. So there also, it's also a compendium of work, Nāṭya Shāstra. Tolkāppiyam is a comprehensive treatise of linguistics as well as poetics in Tamil. So this is the emphasis we have to give. Like linguistics aspects were also covered, and poetics is also covered in Tolkāppiyam. A look at the structure and organization of this magnum opus is Tamil gives the creative geniusness of Tolkāppiyam. It contains again 1602 verses of formulaic structure, all nutpas. We call each nutpa or sutras, which are extremely condensed statement of norm of convention. So again, a brief introduction about Tolkāppiyam. It is divided into 3 sections: Eluthadigaram, phonology and graphology, morphophonemics. Solladigaram is about morphology and syntax. Porladhigaram, this is unique thing among any other grammars. So even the later day grammarians like Nannul and other later tradition, they do not have this aspect of Porladhigaram. Porladhigaram talks about categorization, as I told you in the beginning. Categorization, meaning construction, this is very important. Meaning construction, poetics, and prosody. So each section is comprising 9 chapters, making it as a perfect symmetry of organization. So the symmetrical nature of the text is very, very important. Each chapter contains 9 sections and like that. So Tolkāppiyam and Nāṭya Shāstra, it was the quote from Max Muller, when Max Muller told, if I am asked which nation had been advanced in the ancient world in aspect of education and culture, then I would say it was India. So if you read the text I mentioned, like Panini, Nāṭya Shāstra, and Tolkāppiyam, we can definitely appreciate and we can feel ourselves proud that we were born in a country where the education and culture was at the topmost level. So language is the essential material of the literary artistry. A poet uses language as his raw material to create a literary work. Aristotle says that poet's medium is language, with the possible admixture of unfamiliar terms and metaphors and various other modifications of language that allows to poets. So Nāṭya Shāstra is the first treatise on dramaturgy in Indian literary philosophical tradition. It is an encyclopedia of various ideas and principles about drama as a form of art. The same way, Tolkāppiyam is also a kind of great work done by Tolkāppiyam about poetics. You will appreciate Tolkāppiyam, or you will appreciate Nāṭya Shāstra when these two textbooks are studied side by side. So a comparative study will give us the notion of grammar and also the great geniusness of those those scholars in those days. So normally Bharata, even though the text is associated with the Bharata, people say it's an acronym kind of thing. Bhava, Raga, and Tala. The combination of these 3 is named as Bharata. So Bharata is not a single person. There are differences of opinion. It varies. Bhava, Raga, and Tala, because the text has given emphasis for all these things. And Tolkāppiyam is also Tolkāppiyam, ancient. Kāpu means protection, and Iyam is the study of science. Or Tolkāppiyam may be ancient. Kāppiyam is Kavya. So it's a kind of preservation of tradition or preservation of poetics. So both texts have given emphasis on the tradition and preservation. That's very, very important. And the common thing between both the texts are the poetry. Poetry is the common theme. You may wonder how a grammar is Tolkāppiyam is a grammar, but it describes poetics as well. So there are so many similarities. Similarities means amazing similarities if you go through the text, and this may give us the idea of the ancient wisdom. So if you compare the whole text, both the texts, characteristic features of ancient text is there. That means both texts are very, very ancient texts. The author, they question about the author, whether it's written by a single author or it's a school of thought or it's written by different people. And unity of the text also is there. This is common to both the texts, even for Tolkāppiyam as well as Nāṭya Shāstra. Unity of the text also. There are so many recensions available for Nāṭya Shāstra. Some, maybe Abhinava Gupta is one of the commentator. His version, he collected manuscript from different points. Kathmandu version is something different. And there are also other variations. Manuscripts were collected from different areas, and they have translated the text. Some people say it's not, the whole text is not, written by so many people. Similarly, for Tolkāppiyam also, it was studied by scholars very deeply, as well as, in a very elaborate way also. But let me take little time to give some kind of history of Tolkāppiyam studies, so that you can understand the importance of the work. So Tolkāppiyam, though the period I will come to that point later, but text, it consists of 3 chapters. People consider, or scholars consider, the first 2 chapters were written by somebody, and 3rd chapter was written later. It was added, that Porladhigaram about poetics. That was the thing. And linguists have concentrated on the first 2 chapters, and literature people concentrated more on poetics, 3rd part. And still, maybe still people believe it's not a unified whole. But only the few scholars have studied Tolkāppiyam extensively. They pointed out that Tolkāppiyam is a unified text from the point of poetics. But Professor Balasubramaniam from Anna University, he is the only linguist who combined all the chapters and stated that this text is uniform, written by one person, by the style of the language, as well as the theme, as Tolkāppiyam has taken. So it's the Tolkāppiyam as a whole unit. So this is the present status of Tolkāppiyam. But I slightly differ from Professor K. Balasubramaniam, where he says the 3rd chapter discusses about the semantics, poetics, but that semantics is not bound by the structure of the language. So here I slightly differ from him. 3rd chapter is about deconstruction or construction of meaning, and it is very much bound by the structure. That I have written so many things about this in a report. So this is the kind of introduction about Tolkāppiyam, and there are so many recensions of both the texts, and people consider certain topics or interpolations. So these are all common to all points. This is not connected with the deeply connected with the text. But again, coming to the period of text, both those texts are between 300 3rd century BC to 3rd century CE. So this is the common era accepted by the scholars. No, we cannot predict this particular period, this date, this time for the ancient texts. But claims are more. Even both texts were claimed. Some people claim Nāṭya Shāstra to the 5th century, and Ashtadhyayi has some kind of mentions about Nāṭya. So people say, scholars say, that Nāṭya Shāstra is before Panini also. And some other scholars state it is between, even after 5th century CE. This is about Nāṭya Shāstra. But for Tolkāppiyam, there are difference of opinion based on the Asoka Brahmi and also the scripts mentioned in Tolkāppiyam. So it's between before 3rd century CE and the Sangam literature, the points talked about Tolkāppiyam and the Sangam literature. By comparing them, some scholars predict that it is before 3rd century BC. But recent evidences from Keeladi excavation proves that there were literacy among scholars, among the very, very common public. In the poetry, there were evidences, epigraphical evidences, and still people are working on it. They consider that Tolkāppiyam may be around 6th century BC. So these are all, if we go by the period of text, the extent to which the texts are brought back to the ancientness, they consider this the greatness, but that's not. Whatever the text, whenever is the text written, even if it is written in 20th century, the content that is talked about, that is dealt in the text is very, very important. In that aspect, Tolkāppiyam is somewhat, deviant from all the later grammarians of Tamil, and it is some kind of, unique content. It has unique content that we will see. So this is about the similarities. Then the overall emphasis on the theme. What is the purpose of life? Why they have written or why they have doing this kind of writings or art? What is the purpose? The overall life emphasis of life is given in both Tolkāppiyam and Nāṭya Shāstra. So they have these three aspects: dharma, artha, and kama. These three are the essential points. In Tamil, it is aram, porul, inbam. So amazing similarity is, even though the text is written in Sanskrit, maybe 300 centuries BC, the kavyas or the Itihasas talked about salvation, the moksha. Moksha was there in all the Itihasas, but Nāṭya Shāstra doesn't talk about salvation. So this amazing similarity is there. So Tolkāppiyam and Nāṭya Shāstra, they talk about three aspects of dharma, artha, and kama. So salvation is missing. Even in Sangam literature also, we have evidences. Earlier Sangam poets, they do not talk about salvation, even though there is a mention about even if I get the other world, I won't miss my lover. That kind of citations are there in the Ahananuru Sangam text. But the other world is not moksha. They have the concept of this world and other world, but that doesn't mean it's a moksha. Later texts talked about moksha. So the earlier text, the Sangam literature, Tolkāppiyam, as well as Nāṭya Shāstram, has given importance for the three aspects except moksha. This is very, very important point. Then again, the sevenfold division of the zone. This is amazing similarity I could see in both the texts. See, in Nāṭya Shāstra, they divide the whole world, not this world. They have taken the other world also. I have given citations in the every points, citations from the text itself. This is a translation I followed by Manmohan Ghosh. This is one of the earliest translation, English translation. So I depend on that translation only. So chapter, maybe this one, 24th, 76 verse, talk about kama, artha, and this one, dharma. And Tolkāppiyam also, verse number 1157, and also some other verses talks about the kama, the three aspects. But they deal something different. Difference is there. The common point is they concentrate more on these three aspects. And sevenfold division is very, very amazing similarity I could see both in Tolkāppiyam and Nāṭya Shāstra. So they have, for stagecraft, they divide the world into whether the place in which scene has been laid is a house, a city, a garden, a pleasant resort, a river, hermitage, forest, earth, sea, any part of three worlds. So that any part of three worlds, any one of the seven great divisions of earth. I know the seven great divisions of earth, its continent, any of the different mountains, sky, so many things are included in Nāṭya Shāstra. But in Tolkāppiyam Porladhigaram, he says, Kaikilai Mudala Perundana Iruvai Elu Thina Elu Perundinai. So that means from Kaikilai to Perundinai, there are seven divisions of world. So this is the basic for both the texts to explain further about their perspectives about drama as well as poetics. So here Tolkāppiyam talks about the concrete landscape as well as the abstract landscape. Kaikilai and Perundinai are abstract landscape. So included in the text in the first sutra itself, it has seven divisions. But the division in Nāṭya Shāstra is something different. So it's three different worlds, 7 division world among the 7 division world in this world, sky, so many things are included. But those division do not have any impact on Nāṭya Shāstra. This you have to keep in mind. This is just to design stage. But for Tolkāppiyam, from Kaikilai to Permanai, they are mapped to the poetic structure. They are mapped to the flora and fauna. They are mapped with the each and every aspects of poetry. So this is very important. But the amazing similarity is very, very at the higher node. 7/4 division of world is mentioned. Then again, dramatic representation. So this is again very important, very amazing similarity. If you read, so I have studied Tolkāppiyam. Then for somebody has written, there are some one similarity he has pointed out that both texts pointed out realistic Loka Dharma, Nāṭya Dharmi. So Loka Dharmi, Nāṭya Dharmi. These are the words. So they one person, a person has written that Tolkāppiyam talks about Loka Dharmi and Nāṭya Dharmi. The same is reflected in Nāṭya Shāstra. So then that made me to study this Nāṭya Shāstra in a detailed manner. So it's very true. Nāṭya Shāstra mentions Loka Dharmi, popular text, and conventional Nāṭya Dharmi. So the same thing is reflected in Tolkāppiyam also. That is 14th chapter, verse I have quoted. Tolkāppiyam also quoted in 10.1, 1000.2 in Poetics uses a poet consists of imagery usage as well as actual usage. Ulaga valakkum, Nādaga valakkum. So that's the same thing, but he differs slightly from Bharata in such a way. Even though there are two varieties, two divisions of representations are there, like Loka Dharmi and Nāṭya Dharmi, but this Tolkāppiyam concentrate more on poetic division. Ulaga valakkinum, Nādaga valakkinum, Pulaneri valakam. He says poetic Pulaneri valakku. He talks about Pulaneri valakku more. So he accepts that two usages, but the focus is more on Pulaneri valakku. But in Rama, we have to come. I will come to this point later. Why they are bothering about more about realistic and conventional Loka Dharmi and Nāṭya Dharmi? That I will come to the later stage. So that made me really feel proud that the scholarships of ancient sages. So this is again another similarity. The two usages. This is also very, very similar. Prose style and poetic style. Tolkāppiyam calls about Valakku and Seiyul. Valakku is the common usage. Seiyul is poems. So discussed in grammar part. He didn't discuss this in the third part of the text. Third part talks about the poetics, but this was talked about in a grammar part, first and second chapter. Similarly, Nāṭya Shāstram also in 36 verse, 36 that sutra, word padas are inflected words and are of two kinds, those used in verse and those used in prose. So this is also the style of usage of words. Then major division of practice. This is again amazing similarities. So you all know that Tolkāppiyam is very, very famous, or the Tolkāppiyam's geniusness is about the division of the world, or the love thing, love and life. Love and war. The whole practice is like Aham Puram. These are two different major divisions exclusively designed by Tolkāppiyam for Tamil poetics. But this is reflected in Nāṭya Shāstra also. He says there are two styles of dramatic practice, delicate Sukumara and Avidya. So there is violent. So this is somewhat, exactly it's not the same, but at the peripheral level, they are similar. So delicate is very, very delicate kind of drama and violent kind of drama. So this may be equated with the Aham and Puram, but not the same. The division, the theme they have taken and the division they are doing. So this is something similar. And Rasa and Maipadu, whenever somebody talks about Nāṭya Shāstra and Tolkāppiyam, immediately people jump out to the conclusion that rasa theory is common to the both texts. So they talk rasas are common. Yes, it is common to both texts. But the amazing thing is Tolkāppiyam talks about 8 rasa. That rasa is different from Nāṭya Shāstra rasa. That I'll come to the later stage. But Nāṭya Shāstra also has given importance to 8 rasa. The number 8 is very, very important. So 9th rasa, Navarasa is the later addition. Even during Nāṭya Shāstra time, that Navarasa was not mentioned. Navarasa is the later addition. So in the original, both the texts, they talk about the 8 rasas. I will discuss that later. And again, background of composition. This is again very, very important. So background for composition of any poetry, Tolkāppiyam has taken 3 basic units like Mudal Porul, Karuporul, Uriporul. So Mudal Porul is space and time. Karuporul is flora and fauna. And Uriporul is something physico nature of the human. So these 3 are the fundamental basic points for the composition of poetry. This is entirely different for Nāṭya Shāstra, but they have common theme, background of composition. So Nāṭya Shāstra mentioned about the painted sceneries behind the stage. So people say that this is similar to Tolkāppiyam, where the flora and fauna or the sceneries like hilly area, then forest area, seashore area, fertile land. These are all land division. Those divisions are painted. So this is, the background is similar to both of the texts. And Mudal is time and space. Tolkāppiyam has given emphasis to time and space for his grammar. And Nāṭya Shāstra has given to least importance to the kind of, the background sceneries. So Tolkāppiyam has taken, this is his fundamental thing. Time and space for construction of grammar. That's why I told you categorization of linguistic categorization is based on the cognition as well as the time and space aspects are there. So each and every aspects of grammar reflected by the concept time and space. But Nāṭya Shāstra has not exploited the background sceneries for meaning construction. Again, they may have give some kind of background, maybe constructed models. Models are there. Even if there is a tree on the drama stage, they construct a putta, they model a kind of tree, and the drama will take place. But that tree has no effect or not very much impact on the play. But for Tolkāppiyam, the background, Karuporul, is very, very important. But the amazing similarity is they have taken the background as one of the one aspects of composition. Then the social life of characters. Social life also, this is also detailed description of ornaments, directions about costumes to be used by the characters in the play according to their social status, profession, religious faith, and tribal origin are given in Nāṭya Shāstra. That number is also quoted. So according to the social status, so there is a clear-cut social stratification is there in the Nāṭya Shāstra. But this kind of stratification is not mentioned in Tolkāppiyam, but it talks about the indigenous people, Thinai-related lifestyle. Thinai means if it is a region, the landscape is about mountain and related thing, that the people, indigenous people living in that region. If it is fertile land and the people living in that region, their cultures are talked about. Even though there are mentions about higher status people's usage, lower people usage, like that is some very, very scant references are there. But Tolkāppiyam didn't give importance to this kind of social stratification. Though there is king, Andanas, Brahmins, other Vaisyas, that kind of stratification is mentioned, but it doesn't. They do not have any kind of impact in the composition of poetry. And the mention of regional dialects. This is also amazing similarities. That means, Tolkāppiyam mentions the regional dialectal variations in his sutras. But in the prologue to that, Pandiri Nilam. So 12 dialects or regional dialects are mentioned in Tolkāppiyam. Tolkāppiyam taken into consideration for all the three. He recognized, or those period, the people of the scholars of that time recognized 12 regional dialects. But in Nāṭya Shāstra is a big canvas. You should not forget, it's just about North India alone. They talked about the whole India. Whole India means starting from Kashmir to Gandhar to down to south. So it's a very big canvas, and they talked about so many dialects mentioned here. And the 12 varieties of Panniru Valakku by Tolkāppiyam is about Tamil land. The amazing similarity is, why should the text mention about regional dialects? Okay, why should the text, both texts, mention about social life of the characters? Why should they mention about the composition? Okay, then again, 4 types of languages. So Nāṭya Shāstra talks about superhuman language, noble language, common language, and animals language. So this is, it is in 16th, 6th verse talks about 4 varieties of language. Then another important division is Dakshināṭya, Avanti, Uddaramanthi, and also Panchala, Madhya local usage. So these 4 dialects are the recognized dialects used in the drama. So again, you have to just think about the 4 division of landscape mentioned in Tolkāppiyam. That division is entirely different, but here the 4, number 4 is important. That 4 divisions: Southern dialect, Avanti dialect, and Magadhi dialect, and also Panchala dialect. So among the 4 dialects, so these are all the dialects of Prakrit languages, not to forget. So Nāṭya Shāstra talks about usage of Sanskrit and Prakrit, and among Prakrit, these 4 dialects are there. In summer, he mentioned Dakshina dialect, especially Telugu and Tamil, should not be used on the stage. Okay, I don't know why he has mentioned like that. That if we go deeper into that, we will come to know that is banned. But Tolkāppiyam never banned any such dialects, any kind of dialects. And the connection with the same thing, he talks about 3 types of words. The same thing is talked about in Tolkāppiyam also in the part of grammar. So Tolkāppiyam says Iyarchol, Tirisol, Tisaichol, Vadasol, 4 kinds of words. Vadasol is equal to Sanskrit words. So since Nāṭya Shāstra talks about Sanskrit as well as Prakrit, so Vadasol, northern dialects means Vadasol, Sanskrit is common. So the amazing similarity is both the texts talk about the Sanskrit, the dialectal variations, and also the Tirisol, the corrupt words, and also the regional, the major words. So this is amazing similarity we can see. So 4 kinds of words, and the generosity of Tolkāppiyam, I can say, they didn't ban any kind of dialect, any kind of words. He has given importance to Sanskrit language also. He said, even Sanskrit words are there. You just adopt it according to your usage. So that's how the Tamil grammar accommodated all the dialects, all the even the Sanskrit terms. That shows that the scholarship prevalent in those days. So Sanskrit scholarship was there, like English language. Those days, Sanskrit scholarship was there in Tamil Nadu. And Tolkāppiyam used the same thing as Iyarchol, Tirisol, Tisaichol, Vadasol. The same 4 kind of words and 4 kind of usages there. And another amazing similarity is naming pattern. So he says, with respect to the diction, the Nāṭya Shāstra talks about naming the characters. Tolkāppiyam also talks about names given to the indigenous people according to the birth and profession. So the same thing, he also laid down rules about naming, what is that? Hindu drama. Yes, diction was suggestive and significant names of different characters in the play. And he also has given emphasis, I have missed that point, based on the profession and also based on birth, Nāṭya Shāstra names are given. But here also it is about the indigenous, their profession, and also the other things. It doesn't talk about the birth kind of thing. And again, different modes of address. This is also a separate chapter is allotted for different modes of address by Nāṭya Shāstra, where Tolkāppiyam also has a separate chapter called Vili Maravu in describing the case markers. So why these two texts talks about addressing modes of address in a separate kind of thing? There, Tolkāppiyam talks about the indigenous name and the last phonetic extension of the last word or last sound for addressing. For example, Annai, the kinship terms are used for addressing. Annai is the mother and it is addressed as Annai. And even the perfect, the verb, finite verb is also used. You can say it's a finite verb or possible noun. Vandan, Vandai, Vandoi, Vedan Venda, Verimane Vandoi. So that kind of the last PNG markers are slightly modified to address the person. But in Nāṭya Shāstra, they use titles as noble lady, noble, great sage, like that. So why? This again amazing similarity. Why these two texts talks about modes of address? Then diction of good play. There are 36 marks of good play in Nāṭya Shāstra. So a good drama should consist of 36 marks. And similarly, Tolkāppiyam talks about 32 techniques of good composition of poetry. So again, diction of play is an important common point. So the sutra I have mentioned. And faults in play. What are the faults that should be avoided in the text? So 10 kinds of faults are mentioned by Nāṭya Shāstra. Tolkāppiyam also mentioned 10 kinds of faults. So, but if you compare these texts, these things, they are different. So that should be difference because this is poetics, that is about drama. But the amazing similarity you have to concentrate. Diction of good play, faults in a expressive system, and different modes of address. Then, even though there are all these points, so still many are there. It's a big text. This huge text consists of 6,000 sutras. This also more than 1,000 sutras. Amazing similarities are there. So that is the. Now, if you compare this text, why both texts talks about all these common points? So even though there are similarities at the peripheral level, at the deep level, they are deeply divided. They are not similar. So for example, origin of the text, Nāṭya Shāstra, some people say its origin is in Kashmir area, Kashmir region, because the commentator Abhinav Gupta is from Kashmir, and he has, then the Nāṭya Shāstra, the what is that? Kummapu, that flower is mentioned. That is mentioned, so he may belong to, Bharata belongs to Kashmir state. That kind of writings are there. Some people mention that he is from central part where you can still see the theatrical caves in the form of theaters. So he belongs to central area. So the point is, the Nāṭya Shāstra is definitely not from south, but it is of north, central and northmost. But Tolkāppiyam, it's again, we don't know the origin, but they say there's a submerged land called Kumarikodu is mentioned in the prologue of Tolkāppiyam. There's a king called Nilandaru Tiruvitpandiyan, a Pandya king. In his court, the first debut of Tolkāppiyam was published. debut of Tolkāppiyam in the presence of Adangota Asan. Adangota Asan is a teacher. So the text says like that. So this is extreme south, maybe submerged one. That one is extreme north. So this regional polarity is there. But in spite of these regional polarities, there are amazing similarities that you have to keep in mind. Then orientation in treatment. This is again very, very important. Tolkāppiyam, Nāṭya Shāstra treats the entire drama from the perspective of top to bottom. So this is my, after studying the both the texts, these are all my points. Even that also I have identified. The top-down approach is there in Nāṭya Shāstra, whereas Vedas are not to be listened to by those born as Sudras. Be pleased to create another Veda which will belong to the clerk group. So Vedas are prohibited for Sudras. So to please Sudras, Bharata is going to create another this Veda. So Nāṭya Shāstra is considered as the fifth Veda. Bharata himself told that he has taken some elements from Ardha Veda, that Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Ardha Veda, different Vedas, 4 Vedas, and he constructed the fifth Veda called this one, Nāṭya Shāstra. It's the quote by Bharata himself. And lays down elaborate rules as how the drama is to make mimicry of the exploits of men, then divine and semi-divine counterparts. This is very important. Whereas Tolkāppiyam is from bottom up. It talks about the Thinaikudi, the very, very indigenous people, the people who live in that region. They are all very ordinary people. Tolkāppiyam describes about the culture, their food system, their music system, and their behavior. It talks about this one. It doesn't talk about the higher. This kind of division is not there. Upper world. Even there is no mention of God. That I'll come to later. So this is from reality to reality, total reality. That is from some kind of divine world to the local world. And again, the polarity is religious versus non-religious. As I mentioned in the beginning, all Ashtadhyayi or Idihasas, Puranas are all religious. A mimicry of exploits of gods, asuras, kings, as well as the householders in this world is called Rama. This is Bharata's definition. Nāṭya Shāstra, as I told you, claimed as the fifth Veda. Again, it's connected with mythology. Bharata, amazing thing is, Bharata identified colors to deities as well as rasas. Erotic is light color, green, and Vishnu. Vishnu is the god. So this that I'll come to that later. Vishnu, Rudra, maybe Yama. Each rasa is given color, and each rasa is assigned a god, and gods are given color. But in Tolkāppiyam, there's no mention of this kind of detailed mention of gods and other things. We have one sutra where Mayonmaya Kadure Lokam. The landscape is related with the gods. Scholars consider that's not God. And some people say it's a later interpolation. But the similarity is that some points of connections are there. Even in Karupurul, Devam is mentioned. Devam is God is mentioned, but it prohibits God for using similes, for creation of similes and Ullurai Irachi kind of thing. It avoids God. So mentions were there, but they were, again, I'm telling, they were not connected with the text, either grammar or composition of poetry. So this is the polarity. And again, Abhinaya is the fundamental unit for Nāṭya Shāstra, whereas utterance is the fundamental unit for Tolkāppiyam. Abhinaya consists of Vachika, Aharya, as well as Angiga and Sarpika. These 4 aspects combine to give Abhinaya. People may claim that the essence of Nāṭya Shāstra is rasa. So from Abhinaya, you can get rasa. This is my approach. From Abhinaya, one can get rasa. But utterance, Tolkāppiyam this is where I differ from Balasubramanian sir. So here, Balasubramanian sir told that there is no connection between it's the Agathaniyal, Prothaniyal, the Aham and Pram aspects are the aspects which cannot be bound by language. But I consider that utterance is the common point for whole text, and from utterance we can get meaning. The whole Tolkāppiyam is about constructing meaning of utterance in a particular speech context. That's very, very important. That has not been identified so far. So this is 4 kinds of abhinayas are there. And even abhinaya means lips, eyebrows, ears, and each and every angiya. They say body. That's even small movement of eyes or the eyebrow. How does meaning is expressed through this kind of thing? So if we compare this, Tolkāppiyam talks about form to pragmatics. Even a slight variation in the form, how it affects the composition of sail, the composition of poetry. So 2 different ways. He talks about performing arts, but he talks about poetics. But there are amazing similarities and also polarities. And sorry. Okay. Utterance in the context of landscape, flora and fauna are there. Nāṭya Shāstra depends on body limbs, but Tolkāppiyam talks about poetic limbs. So it takes time if I start explaining all these things. And Rasa and Modal Porul. Total text is based on Rasa theory, as I told you. Even scholars, the scholars who worked on Nāṭya Shāstra, they take Rasa as the important thing. For us, Modal Porul and meaning. Modal Porul, meaning is important. The time and space is very, very important for this one. The main part or the body language is there as in a separate chapter, but importance is given to space and time for construction of grammar in Tolkāppiyam. And styles and landscape, this is again a very, very amazing similarity as well as deep polarity. Verbal, grand, energetic, and graceful. These are all 4 styles talked about in Nāṭya Shāstra. So he says grand, energetic, and graceful styles are there. But Tolkāppiyam doesn't talk about all these kind of styles, but he divided the entire thing into Aham and Pram. And same thing, the styles are connected with the landscape, but Tolkāppiyam did not connect the styles with the landscape. Landscapes are connected with the psychophysical status of a woman in Aham. That you have to keep in mind. So then the verbal style, Bharati style is only for performed by only for men. Here it is saying which male characters are exclusively to be employed in this is said to be verbal style. Verbal style is characterized by the male, but Tolkāppiyam is totally different. Fourfold length division was talked about. Aham is predominantly female oriented. So Aham, feelings of Aham is female center, and Puram is male. So the Veera and other things are predominantly dominated by male. So this kind of division is there. And heroines versus the dominant state. So in some, I've forgotten to mention the sutra. So there are 8 types of heroines mentioned in Nāṭya Shāstra. Heroines are 8 kinds. 1 dressed up for union. 1 dressed up for union. 1 distressed by separation. 1 having her husband in subjection. 1 separated from her lover by quarrel. 1 enraged with her lover. 1 deceived by her lover. 1 with the sojourning husband. So these 8 kinds of women are discussed in Nāṭya Shāstra, but Tolkāppiyam did not discuss about the characters or the status of women, but their abstract feelings are taken as Uripurul. So this is female center, but it's about Uripurul, the psycho-physical status of the woman. So this is again polarity. And now, having seen the similarities and polarities, let's concentrate on Do I have time? Okay. Polarities in drama. Poetics in drama. The drama, Nāṭya Shāstra. What are the poetics elements or grammatical points? I'll rush through. So, Nāṭya Shāstra, Bharata considers this one. This world is in this world of Shastras are made up of words and rest on words. This is a quote. Hence, there is nothing beyond words. Words are at the source of everything. This is Bharata's quote. So he talks about language. So 5 chapters on language are allotted. So zone and local usage is 1 chapter. Rules of prosody, metrical pattern, diction of play, rules of usage of language, modes of address and intonation. These 5 chapters are discussing about use of language in Nāṭya Shāstra. And verbal representation is again amazing, similar, you can say, the parts of speech. Nāṭya Shāstra talks about parts of speech, 4 parts of speech. Tolkāppiyam also talks about 4 parts of speech, like noun, verb, idaichol, urichol. Nāṭya Shāstra also talks about nouns, verbs, roots, and particle. Maybe all these particle, preposition, nominal, suffix, case endings are clubbed under idaichol in Tolkāppiyam. But he just mentioned 4 parts of speech are there, but he has given 7, 8 points. Then figures of speech, simile, metaphor, condensed words, expression, yamaga are given. So yamaga of Nāṭya Shāstra and yamaga of Tolkāppiyam are entirely different. But the commonality is it talks about simile, metaphor, condensed expression, and yamaga. One peculiar thing is metaphors are not talked about in Tolkāppiyam, but a different kind of metaphors are used. That gives a separate talk. 4 kinds of similes and 10 kinds of yamaga are talked about in grammar in Nāṭya Shāstra, but there it's different. And sounds, 14 vowels are discussed in Nāṭya Shāstra, and the group of sounds, consonants are also talked about. And the fine classification can be noticed in the grammar of Nāṭya Shāstra. It discussed about voiced and unvoiced, velar, labial, dental, nasal, sibilant, palatal, like that. Nouns, it described about noun. Noun has its function determined by the case endings such as su. These are all quoted by this one. It is of 5 kinds and has basic meaning and gender. So this is the definition given by Nāṭya Shāstra. So there are 8 kinds of nouns. And but the description of noun in Tolkāppiyam is something different. Noun is defined by the tense. If a form doesn't take tense, then it's called noun, and there are exceptions. And verb also, it relates to the action occurring in the present, past time, and like that, are distinguished and divided according to number and person is same. But very, very important point is visibility is considered along with tense in Nāṭya Shāstra. So they say present tense, visible, not visible. But this kind of visibility is not at all a criteria for Tolkāppiyam. And verbs are defined like person and number, time. But in Tolkāppiyam, verbs are defined by taking the case marker. A form which doesn't take case marker is called verb. So that kind of I don't know how to explain. The nouns and verbs are defined in an interdependent manner, but there is a different thing. One amazing thing is the footnote. Yaman goes as cited. There's no kind of this kind of 8 division of gender, 8 division of nouns, and 25 division of 25 classes of verbs are not mentioned in Ashtadhyayi. This is very, very important point. So the grammar talked about in Nāṭya Shāstra is not about grammar of Sanskrit. Though it is written in Sanskrit, the grammar Nāṭya Shāstra describes is not belong to which one? The Sanskrit. Whether it's a grammar of Prakrit language, then there is also again there's a Prakrit Grammarians. There's a book called Prakrit Grammarian written by a French writer, translated by Prabhakara Jha. He mentioned if it is a Prakrit usage, the Maharashtric Prakrit was not mentioned in Nāṭya Shāstra. So these are all the points for further research. We can do lots of research on this one. And again, the syllabic meters are again they classified Nāṭya Shāstra classified classic meters, divine, human, semi-divine, and like metrical patterns are like 13 crores, 42,000. Such a kind of number is mentioned. Amazing, the type of the combination and the count they mention, that shows the deep scholarship of those period, those scholars in those days. And Sanskrit poetics about the Sanskrit, what does Sanskrit poetics talk about? So this is given by Satyadev Chaudhary. I don't want to go into that. And what are the dramatic elements in poetry or Tolkāppiyam? So 6 chapters in the 3rd section contain dramatic elements. Again, Agathinayal, Purathinayal, Kalaviyal, Karpiyal, Meepatiyal, and Omayal. So they talk about speech situation, speech context, indirectness. This indirectness is very, very important as far as meaning construction is concerned. Space and time during love theme. So again, these portray a kind of dramatic elements in the composition of poetry. Music and songs are prescribed to each landscape which fall under Karupurul. So the common thing again for the music, song, and bhava are the basics for Nāṭya Shāstra. Here, music and songs are also prescribed to each landscape under Parai, Pan, Yal. Parai is drum, Pan is musical notes, and Yal is musical instrument. So Tolkāppiyam also talks about this one, but it all belongs to Pana Paramara. And the whole text is about dramatic monologue. If somebody asks what Tolkāppiyam talks about is dramatic monologue in the poetics. So it's a kind of monologue with lots of intonation, with the background setting and other things. So Aham is full of monologue, and Puram deals with the Thurai. It's a kind of content. What do you say? Small how to steal cows and how to retrieve the cows and how to ports are how to protect the ports. There's so many things are there. So that again is, if we elaborate, it goes on. So this dramatic monologue in the speech, how drama is expressed, that is important in this one. And aspects of poetry is given by K. Balasubramaniam is very, very important. Total sum of the essence of Tamil poetry he has given in this one. And the content structure of Tamil Agam poetry is very important as far as the Thinai division, conduct, speaker, hearer, situation, time, result, and emotion, HM. These are all the basic elements, as I told you in the Abhinaya, Vasaga, this one, Angara, and also Hagara, makeup and other things. Those are very important. Like this, here in the speech thing, the speaker, hearer, context, time, this is taken into consideration. That is the very, very, very important point as far as Tolkāppiyam is concerned. No grammar talks about, no earlier grammar. Maybe, of course, later grammarians, even modern grammarians, Jakobsen talks about this kind of speaker, hearer, and other things. But that you can see in Tolkāppiyam. That's what I told you. The period is not necessarily important, but the content. The content, maybe you take Tolkāppiyam 2000 years back, the way they think about language, that's something amazing, something unique, and something unimaginable. And I'll come to the last section. The common theme is, when somebody says Tolkāppiyam and Nāṭya Shāstra, they immediately jump into the conclusion that it is common point is Meipadu. Meipadu is Bhava. Meipadu is body language. So the common theme and treatment, let me see. Bharata, it's a huge thing. Rasa theory is a big thing. I will condense this into small points I cannot go into very detail because it takes time. Bharata refers to bhavas. So bhavas, there are two types of bhavas. One is sthayi bhava, another one is sanchari bhava. Sanchari, some people say it's a vyavichari bhava. So sthayi bhava is the permanent bhava, and sanchari bhava is the movement, transit kind of drama. So refers to the imitation of emotions of the actors perform and the rasas they inspire in the audience. This is the thing. So through bhavas, rasas are created, and rasa should be inspired in the audience. So they talk about audience. Audience centric is there. So the bhavas means in the acting, dance, in the dance or in the performance, how each part of our body and expressions are inspiring the audience. That is rasa. Rasa is something different from sentiments. That also I'll come to. There are 8 principal sentiments. So this is a dominant sentiments. This is love, pity, anger, disgust, heroism. This is the 8 kind of dominant sentiments. So Tolkāppiyam talks about this one, love, pity, and other things. So this, they say, according to Bharata, this is sentiment, dominant sentiment. So how dominant sentiment is created? So again, rasa and sentiment, though they are, meaning is overlapping, rasa be dominated by one ascribing mental conditions, sthayi bhava, transient mental status, vyavichari bhava or sanchari bhava, psychophysical emotions, sattvic bhava. So all the 3 combinations, sthayi, vyavichari, sattvic bhava, they create one dominant rasa. Okay, that rasas are this one, love, pity, anger. So this, just listen carefully. The combination of all these things create a rasa. But for Tolkāppiyam, it is different. I'll come to that. Bhava produces poetic content through words, gestures, and movements and psychophysical representation. So bhava is very, very important. And how rasa and maipada are different, this you have to keep in mind. Rasa arises from a proper combination of stimulant, vibhava. This is again very important thing. Vibhav they say. Physical consequence and also transient emotional status, anubhava and vyavichari bhava. So vibhava is anubhava and vyavichari bhava. Anubhava is one who feel the anubhavam. Anubhavam means experience, and vyavichari bhava is transient emotional. So this is also again a point for combination of this one. Vibhava, or the reason for the cause of rasa, is of 2 types. One is alambana vibhava and uddipana vibhava. So existent and background, this is determinants and actors. So the vibhava consists of 2 things. One is actor and another one is background. So Bharata brings vibhava into for the cause of rasa. But Tolkāppiyam, Uddinapava is the karupurul of any composition. So in a drama, there are following 8 rasas. So these are all the original rasas discussed by Bharata. So erotic, shingara, hasya, cosmic, compassionate, karuna, furious, heroic, terrifying, disgusting, and awesome, arbudha. So these are all the 8 rasas. And what is this one? The sentiments. So rasas are something different from sentiments. So love creates the Sringara Bhava. That's what Bharata teaches. So this dominant sentiment, along with this one, Sthayi Bhava, Sanchari Bhava, and Sattvic Bhava, rasa is created. And dominant rasa leads to rasa. That is the Nāṭya Shāstra's soul. In the drama, there are following 8 rasas. So the 8 rasas mentioned by Nāṭya Shāstra is entirely different from the Maipad is body language of Tolkāppiyam. I'll explain. So Tolkāppiyam talks about Uripurul can be roughly equated with Satvik Bhava. Satvik Bhava is a psycho-physical condition of a girl in Aham tradition. And Karupurul is Uddina Vibhava. So the Karupurul talks about, about drums, music, flora and fauna. Those are all Uddina Bhava. So it's a part of grammar for Tolkāppiyam. But for Nāṭya Shāstra, they are the background of the stage, which helps to create a bhava, or which helps to inspire the audience through rasa. So that's the difference. Dominant sentiments and body language are discussed in Meipadu. So Meipadu, the body language in Tolkāppiyam, even though he talks about 8 Meipadu, he talks about the causes for that Meipadu as that of Nāṭya Shāstra. But apart from that, Tolkāppiyam talks about 70 more than 70 kinds of body language. So that's why, it's a kind of different treatment. So rasa in Tolkāppiyam is the combination of Agam, Puram and Uripurul. This is the difference. For example, Sringara is Nāṭya rasa in Tolkāppiyam. Sringara rasa is Nāṭya rasa in Tolkāppiyam. Bharata states Sringara comes from love, but it has 2 bases like union and separation. For Sringara, union, maybe Sringara rasa is rasa out of union and separation. But Tolkāppiyam has kept these 2 as a separate psychophysical status. Sringara is the rasa which consists of union and separation. Unardal, Puridal is the concept for Tolkāppiyam. That's not rasa for Tolkāppiyam. It's a kind of Uripurul, a state of psychophysical condition. But for Nāṭya Shāstra, union and separations are clubbed under Sringara rasa. Sringara is not a rasa in Tolkāppiyam. But Punardal, Puridal comes under Uripurul as a separate state. Similarly, Veera is not a rasa, but Veera is a great division. It's not a rasa, but one of the divisions of love and war and others. So Aham Puram division. And what is, having seen all these things, now the tradition, I talked about the poetic tradition. So Ashtadhyayi has some kind of similarities. The purpose of Ashtadhyayi is to preserve the purity of phonetic forms for reciting Vedas. Now, that tradition is slightly different. The first grammars, if you see the first grammars available in Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, all have the influence of Sanskrit and Tamil models in designing the grammars. The main purpose of writing grammars for these languages are to compose kavya. This is the important aspect. So there, Ashtadhyayi, the purpose is different. And for later, the classical languages and the first grammars available in the languages, they concentrate more on kavyas. Telugu grammar, Andhra Sabdasindamani, was written in Sanskrit. First grammar of Kannada, Kaviraja Marga, is the only grammar which talks about North and South tradition in composing kavyas. He says it praises both the traditions. Both advocates the purity of language by adopting old Kannada words. So the languages, even though they take models from Tamil and Sanskrit or Prakrit, Nāṭya Shāstra, they advocate their own, they wanted to maintain the purity of their language, Kannada words. So it is the grammar. Kaviraja Marga talks about 2 kinds of grammar in composition of poetry. He says both traditions are good. So that is the thing. And I don't think, there's a division grammar. To sum up, Bharata considers Nāṭya as a visible poetry that is performing center. A mimicry of actions and context of people, which is rich in various emotions and which depicts different situations. So that's why Nāṭya is a visible poetry. And that's why poetry is a kind of drama in Tolkāppiyam. They both talk about the natural world, a mimic of action. That's why they have two divisions called Logatharmi and Nāṭya-dharmi. The description seems to fall in the line with Cicero's view that drama is a copy of life, mirror of customs, reflection of truth. In this statement, Cicero evidently takes cues from Aristotle, who consider that art in general consider imitation. So imitation is the basis for the two texts. Indian poetics is a milestone of theories and laws related to poetry and drama. Indian poetics focuses on drama and poetry existed as an integral part of drama. This is very, very important. Why Tolkāppiyam talks about poetics and why drama is talked about, in Nāṭya Shāstra. Bharata and Tolkāppiyam are known as pioneers of literary theory in Indian tradition. Indian thinking is not fragmentary, but it is continuous, cumulative, and inclusive. They write about different areas of human life and experience. This is what I want to conclude. Thank you very much. I think I have correctly. I've taken on, I don't know, exceed or not.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramamurthy. It was a pleasure to listen to you for 1.5 hours.
Oh, wonderful. Sorry.
So, but it was a very informative, enlightening, and excellent talk on the traditions of Nāṭya Shāstra and Tolkāppiyam. I'm sure there are a lot of questions from the audience.
Yeah.
You beautifully illustrated the grammatical traditions and pointed out various similarities in both traditions, starting from poetic representations, the usages both in prose and poetic styles, the different dramatic divisions of practice, rasas, meipadu, the background of composition, social life of Catsidics, and how both Bharata and Tolkāppiyam treated different other aspects like naming patterns, mention of various regional dialects, and also a very elaborate section on differences. In other words, as you called, the points of polarity, talking about the origins, orientation in the treatment, and how Nāṭya Shāstra has a top-down approach and Tolkāppiyam shows a bottom-up approach when it comes to orientation in treatment, the various religious and non-religious differences, the dramatic elements in poetry and grammar, and many, many, many aspects. It was a fantastic talk. I congratulate you as a colleague and as a friend. I'm very happy to see that both traditions are looked from a very scientific point of view. I know you told me you have 200 slides. I'm very happy you could show us more than 25 slides and talk about various aspects. Now the talk is formally open for discussion. We can have at least...
Sir, this is Shivram Krishna.
Namaskar.
Yes,
You are giving very good presentation. That's the sense of which is giving in the Dravidian culture, the Tolkāppiyam's way of movement, that the way of expressions comparing with that Bharata Muni and the late modern trend of this Aristotle and whatever the Plato's influences, how you are compared that one. You did a lot of homework, but it's a real form of presentation of your presentation you are given in this lecture. The sense which is giving for the maximum for that. Bharata Muni's Vibhava, Anubhava, Samyoga, the Rasanishpati, which you compare the sense and the context is giving right part of that one. The two Hindustani way of variety is entirely different, but here that your way of Vedic tradition, which you are adopted with the Pandya Ashtadhyayi, along with this Tolkāppiyam, in addition to that modern trend also you are given. Congratulations to sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, no, I have time.
Gail has something.
I cannot help. Gail, unmute your mic.
My mic. Okay. I'm very interested in your in what you were saying about Tolkāppiyam writing his grammar as in not just as a description of the language, but also in terms of interpretation of text. So, in other words, his grammar is oriented towards what Jacobson would have called the aesthetic function of language.
Yeah.
But I would like. You were covering a lot of material, so you couldn't put this into your talk. I was just looking for some concrete examples of how context comes into his grammar, or how he sees context as influencing grammar. Could you just give a few examples?
Lot more. Even taking from speaker point of view, hearer point of view, there are so many things. For example, a lover, they are meeting in a place. It comes under Kurinji. Kurinji means hillock area, region. That the friend of lover says, Kurdi Puvin Kulaikandatre. That's the poem, first poem of this one, Kurundogai. This means Kurdi Puvin Kulaikandatre. This kind of flowers are available plenty in my hillside. So this is the statement. So from this statement, what is the dominant meaning we could extract? That means we have this much flowers in our land. Don't give this one. So we don't want this one. This is one thing. Second thing is, instead of giving flowers, take her, marry her. That is another suggestion. So this is, I say, the entire poem is of utterance. Utterance, you all know that it may be a single word to a big text. So all poems are like this text. And all Sangam poems, the later day commentators, they have drawn the Thinai Thurai, which poem, who speaks what is the context, all these things are given for each poem. Without that, you cannot understand the real meaning of that poem. So that, the background of that poem, which landscape it belongs to, who is the speaker, and to whom it is being talked about, and what is it about, and what are the imageries, what are the similes, what are the ullurais, connected with the Karupurul. So this, you cannot understand a single Sangam poem without the theory of Tolkāppiyam. So that is the meaning construction using the Jacobson's aesthetic model. So that, we come to know only recently about Jacobson model, but just imagine how, 2000 years back, they were talking about these models. And, there are thousands of examples I can give, but I have to give you a separate talk. Arrange one.
Yeah, okay. No, just, but would he have something like, would he, for example, discuss how a particular grammatical item is used in poetry in such and such manner, or for a poetic function?
It's not, Uri is not function. It is the physical status of a woman in the Aham poetry, love scene. After, they are enjoying this one stage, premarital relationship. Then there's a separation. Okay, the whole poems talks about Uri Porul. So this poem is about they say union and related, separation and related. So due to separation, the sufferings, caused by the female. That's, several aspects of this sufferings are there. So each poem says about, this is about Punardal, Piridal, Thinai, like that.
But that sounds more like literary interpretation to me. I was just interested in whether there's a interplay of grammar and function, what was coming into this description.
Exactly. So literary interpretation, that's what I told you, it's about meaning construction.
Okay, interpretation. Okay.
Meaning construction, okay? Meaning construction, grammar, the first two chapters, Elutadigaram, Solladigaram, talks about the grammar of the utterance. Okay? Utterance, how they are constructed. So grammar is something related to utterance. So the defect of Tolkāppiyam research has been that they didn't connect the Poruladigaram with the grammar. All right? Say they separated, they see these two are different entities. Grammar is separate, and this is about poetics. But without poetics, how can you compose poem? There's a separate chapters called Poetics, Seyulial, where he talks about grammar. Some 26 Seyul limbs are there, poetic limbs are there, starting from phone to syllable, meter, yamaga, like that. And where, composition of kavyas for Asiriyappa, Venba, that kind of poetic division also are talked about. So that's the grammar. That's the grammar. You see the core grammar in phonetics, in the first two chapters of Tolkāppiyam.
Okay, thank you.
All right. It seems you are not convinced, but it's difficult to teach you because it's a 200 years tradition with wonderful.
No, I was looking for something like this particular grammatical item can be used in literature for such purposes.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. So poetic Seyulial is there. Entire Seyulian third aspect of grammar, the poetics, it talks about grammar.
And how it's used for poetry.
Yeah,
That's what okay.
Poetic limbs means...
Give a talk on that, it would be very good.
Okay. That's separate, because people are there with the different background. I have to give you introduction.
That would be very interesting. Grammar for these various functions. Yeah.
That's a separate talk.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
Each slide I have given, as Uma told, I have maybe more than 100 slides. I have cut out all these things, even poetic limbs and this one, what is that? Abhinaya limbs, body language. That limbs, how they are linked. That also I can talk. But for this lecture, I cannot give all these.
You were going over various points.
Yeah.
So yes, I would look forward to a lecture on how he talks about grammar used for various functions.
Yeah.
Yes, Professor Ravishankar.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Uma. Congratulations to Dr. Ramamurthy for his enlightening lecture. So his scheme of presentation is very nice. The way he was segregating the topics and comparing with Bharada's Nāṭya Shāstra's concepts and Tolkāppiyam. I have only two clarifications I want, not questions. Only that you said, if I'm right, that rasa and Meipadu, they can't be equated. That is what I understand from your thing. Yes. But for a layman, it goes like both are removed. The emotions centered and they are related to a great extent like that. So how do you justify your statement?
If you study deeply the both things, rasa and Meipadu, Tolkāppiyam talks about 8 rasa. Okay? And 8 rasas are LL, Nagai, Ogai, like that. But Nāṭya Shāstra rasas are Singara, Veera, that kind of 8 kind. Okay. So if you deeply analyze the Nāṭya Shāstra rasa, it's something, the combination of both Tamil Uripurul, Agam, as well as Meipadu. Meipadu is both emotion, sentiment, and body language. So Tolkāppiyam talks about Meipadu, under Meipadu, maybe some 20 sutras he talks about 8 rasas. Then beyond that, he takes a context where a woman, when she met during the Kalavu period, during the premarital life, immediately after seeing her lover, she just adjust sari. She just remove the hair, loosen the hair, that kind of things. Then how the perspiration comes? What is the body language? So Tolkāppiyam talks about body language. So body language is exclusively for Abhinaya. But he combines this body language as well as emotion and sentiment for rasa theory. For Nāṭya Shāstra, rasa is something more than sentiment, emotion. It's a combination of both. Vibhava, Gochari Bhava, Sthāyi Bhava and Sanchari Bhava. It's a combination of all these things which gives a kind of dominant emotion that becomes sentiment and rasa. So if you deeply analyze, go into detail, the Tolkāppiyam Maipad is entirely different from Nāṭya Shastra's Rasa. But in the
So
very
from
peripheral way, they very look a layman actually think that both are same.
yeah, from our thing, I understand is Rasa is more finer than Tolkāppiyam's Maipad. Something like that, can we say?
Exactly, right. Because the entire Nāṭya Shastra is based on Bhava theory, Rasa theory.
Yeah.
So he talks more about Rasa. But for Tolkāppiyam, his entire composition about Seyulian, how to compose poetry,
Yeah.
through which how to evoke Rasa in the minds of reader. So two approaches are different. So that's why Varda gives more importance to Rasa. So all Rasas are connected with each body limbs. That's very, very important. So Rasa is Nāṭya Shastra. But for
Yeah. Yes.
it is Uriporul, Karuporul, and Budalporul are so important. So two approaches. That's why I said it's a polarity of approach.
Yeah, that's why I appreciate, because you mentioned about the similarities and polarities.
Yeah.
Not that a different comparative perspective. The term we use are very, very nice. The polarity and similarities, okay, they may be synonymous, but they have different senses that I appreciate it. And one more clarification I would like to ask is that when you mentioned a couple of more occasions that you disagree with Professor K. Balasubramanian's some I don't remember exactly. So when you say that I don't agree with Professor K. Balasubramanian, at any point have you discussed with him that how do you differ from him, or got some clarifications before you confirm?
I have submitted a report and discussed the points. But
Okay.
when I meet him personally, I can discuss. I told him that you are talking about the structure which is not bound by the language structure, which is not by the content, which is not bound by the structure. But from my point of view, from cognitive perspective, no structure is unbound by the content. So that is my contention. So that I have discussed with him. Maybe he is the only person who connected all the three chapters and proved that
Yeah, you mentioned it. Yeah, you mentioned it in the beginning.
one.
Also, the point is that he is very good in Sanskrit, these grammatical theories also, no? Not only Tolkāppiyam.
I didn't deny that, but he didn't study Nāṭya Shastra.
Yeah. That's okay. And that's for the clarity, ask whether you did had any conversation with him or not, like that.
Still, we have time, we can discuss.
Thank you. Congratulations, Dr. Ramamurthy. I really enjoyed the way you presented it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Professor Pillai?
Yeah, I must, in the very outset, I must congratulate and appreciate Professor Ramamurthy for giving an elaborate comparative description of Tolkāppiyam and Nāṭya Shastra. Really, it's a wonderful thing. Perhaps many of us do not know, and in fact, he has motivated me to read more about Nāṭya Shastra. Really, I have some reading about the Maipadugal of Tolkāppiyam, but not Nāṭya Shastra. Thank you very much, Professor Ramamurthy, for giving me having motivated me. I will be now get into the Nāṭya Shastra. And thank you, Professor Uma, for giving an opportunity to listen to such a beautiful, elaborate, comparative, descriptive statement of Professor Ramamurthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pillai. So any other questions from the audience? We have some comments in YouTube. Some of them have said a very informative comparative grammar. And so there are such comments appreciating your talk. Yes, Shailendra?
No, I don't have any specific question. Thank you very much for giving me with the both worlds of the Sanskrit tradition as well as the Tamil traditions. And we need to encourage these type of studies. At least we should understand our ancient Indian tradition, which was very rich as far as each goals and everything are concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shailendra, for sparing your time. I'm happy you listened to the entire lecture.
Yeah.
Madam, thank you. Madam, I'm Dr. Behigandan from Madurai.
Oh, yes, Kelinga. Yes, please.
This is a fantastic lecture, which I was very much interested. As Professor pointed out, that we have stopped with this Maypartiyan, and we have never compared that Tolkāppiyam with Nāṭya Shāstra. And I wanted to ask Professor what made him to compare this Nāṭya Shāstra, which is with Tolkāppiyam. And you read, we stopped short with the poetic aspect. But coming to Kūthu, that's what you mean. And what made you compare that, sir?
Maniandan sir, thank you. Professor Maniandan is from different background. He is a medical doctor, but still interested in Tamil poetics. Maniandan sir, there's, whenever somebody talks about Nāṭya Shāstra and Tolkāppiyam, they say immediately they jump into the conclusion that Maypad is the common thing. And to such a extreme that they say, some scholars stated that Tolkāppiyam has taken points from Nāṭya Shāstra. Okay, but our tradition is, our Tolkāppiyam tradition is something different. The concept, the point of focus or point of discussion is, the two are different. They talks about bhava, rasa, and ours is kūtru, utterance. So when they are approaching a grammar from different perspectives, grammar, as I told you in the beginning, grammar, if you see from the present day glass, it's something unacceptable. But for the ancient people, grammar is something big to write rules for the expression systems, you can say. One is poetic expression system and another one is dramatic expression system. So what are that's why the amazing point of similarities, I consider the Indian scholarship where somewhere there was a place, maybe in Nalanda or somewhere, all the Sanskrit and Prakrit Tamil scholars might have assembled there, and they evolved a kind of, grammatical, the ancient Indian thoughts, and they deviated, even though they are, the similarities shows they have common Indian epistemological system, but they deeply differ in expressing their own cultures. So maintaining the diversity and finding a uniformity or a thread of connection between all the region, all the expression system. That is the very, very important aspect, I think, as far as the Indian tradition is concerned.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from colleagues, audience? Of course, people are hungry, but it was wonderful talk. I myself have several questions, but for lack of time, I'm just going to ask you over the phone in the evening. But mine was related to the missing rasas in both Nāṭya Shāstra and Tolkāppiyam. You can think about it. Like there are several rasas when it comes to expressions, and but not all are covered in both traditions. Well, how do we handle the missing rasas? You don't have to answer right away. This is the last question we are having from Shrina.
Srinath from Radian?
Hi. Yes, sir. I'm Sharina Research Kerala.
Okay. Now, how are you, Srina?
Fine, sir. Actually, I want to talk to you that I'm said about I'm asked about your presentation is valuable, very valuable to us, and I have doubt about the elements of morphosyntactic treatments in Tolkāppiyam and Nāṭya Shāstras.
What is that?
Elements of morphosyntactic treatment in Tolkāppiyam and Nāṭya Shāstras. Sir, can you give any example of that?
Examples, so many I have given. Maybe it takes another 1 hour, Serena. We will discuss the point, rasa, how they differ in dealing with rasa is one element. I can give examples by citing Sangam poems, lots of Sangam poems. Or otherwise, you can take your Leela Dalagam, first grammar, where they emphasize the composition of kavya using the what is Tadbhava words. So why they are concentrating more on Tadbhava? Why Malayalam, Telugu became separate languages? All right, all because of the influence of Sanskrit and Sanskrit Rasa and Sanskrit, the treatment of rasas and composition of kavyas. Your Leela Dalagam and Kaviraja Marga all talk about the composition of poems only by how adopting Desya and Sanskrit materials. All right. So in this way, it's totally different, but the essence is same.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much. It was a fantastic talk. I'm sure people have many more things to ask you, but we are running out of time because we are having a small gathering in the institute because someone is leaving the institute, our AAO. So we are all in a hurry to leave, but fantastic talk once again on behalf of our institute, CIL, and on behalf of all of us here, I thank Dr. Ramamurthy for giving us a beautiful overview of the tradition.
Our is inclusive, am I right?
Yes, yes. You are our people, so it's an inclusive Namma Institute.
Namma is very good.
So our institute, Hamara Institute. So I thank you on behalf of the institute, on behalf of the director and my own dear colleagues for sparing your time and giving us a wonderful lecture. I thank each and every one of you present here. We were very honored to have so many people like Professor Subbarao, Professor Shalendra Mohan, Professor Dharmesh Fernandez, Professor Ravi Shankar, Professor Pillai, Professor Sam Monlal, and Professor Gail Coelho, and many, many people on YouTube as well. Professor Sachdeva and my other colleagues from the institute and also in other parts of India. Thank you so much for being with us and for making this lecture successful. And Dr. Ramamurthy, we are looking forward for another talk because I believe this should be continued in some other way, on some other occasion, maybe.
Part 2 of this lecture. Part 2.
Part 2 of the lecture, concentrating on other things. So with this small note, I once again thank Dr. Ramamurthy and everyone present here. Thank you so much, and please enjoy your lunch in your own home and stay safe.
But Professor Uma,
Yeah.
with your kind permission, may I have a word to Professor Sairendra ji?
Yes, sir.
क्योंकि हम उनका लेक्चर के लिए हम इंतजार कर रहे हैं तमिल लिंग्विस्टिक्स एसोसिएशन में.
Yes, yourself, sir.
Please, sometimes, whenever you are free, please,
Yes.
I take it as an encourage from our side, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramamurthy, sir. Thank you. Pillai, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Namaskar.
Namaste. Dhanyawad.
We'll meet again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Sure,
we'll
sir.
meet again. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
yeah.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Namaskar, sir. Subbarao, sir. Thank you.
I don't know how many grams का होता है कुछ पता नहीं है